All right, we're here with Stan the Credit Frog today, and what we're going to be doing is ranking every single credit card issuer. So we're just going to go through, talk about our personal experiences with them, and how we feel about them overall. First of all, Stan, thanks for being here.
Of course, man. I mean, when you told me that you live so close to me in Southern California, I was actually pretty surprised. But it's really cool that, we're pretty local to each other, and so I'm happy to come out and spend some time with you and just talk about our favorite topic, which is credit cards.
Yeah, of course. All right, so let's just kick it off. Let's start off by talking about U.S. Bank, because one of the reasons why you were one of the first guys that I started watching is because when I first started my credit card journey, U.S. Bank was really appealing to me just because of their high multipliers, the Cash Plus, the Kroger cards are great. So I know you make a lot of content on that. So how do you feel about U.S. Bank?
So I think what you have to think about with U.S. Bank is that it really is a cashback bank, clearly, because there are no transfer requirements.
Yeah.
They used to have one of my favorite cards, and still is my favorite card, which is the U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve. It's a phenomenal card because it has an uncapped mobile wallet direct multiplier with that real-time rewards redemption rate of 1.5. So effectively 4.5x cashback equivalent on everything. But now that the card's gone, and that card had those premium travel benefits, there really is no more card in U.S. Bank's arsenal that has those premium travel benefits. And so now we're looking at the other cards like the Connect, which has some. We have also the U.S. Bank Cash Plus, which is more cashback as well. But there's no way to make the points you earn higher than that 1 cent per point redemption because it's really just cashback.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say first of all. But U.S. Bank is one of those banks I wish they had more cards you could use as a main card. I feel like they're more like complementary cards, and it's hard to make a setup of just U.S. Bank cards at this point.
Yeah, the way I view them is they're kind of cards that you want to add after you get your Chase, maybe your Amex cards, because the U.S. Bank Cash Plus, for example, is one of the only cards that I said pretty much everyone in the credit card game should get at a point because it can fit in anyone's setup. There's no other cards that give you 5% back on things like utilities or gym membership, so those are kind of just set and forget categories. But with U.S. Bank, I will say that I like a lot of their cards. Like I said, I love the Kroger card. And I think the Connect is a super underrated card. You can pair it with really any of the $95 annual fee cards, and it gives you 4 free entrances into lounges as well as TSA pre-check. So that's a great complimentary card if you're running like the $95 annual fee like Chase or Chase Trifecta.
Absolutely. I think it's a great, again, complimentary card. And that's why the Cash Plus is a really good complimentary card to a cashback setup for the reasons you mentioned. It does have those very unique 5% categories that you don't see on other cards, especially that home utilities one is really, really helpful. It doesn't have I would say it has those subset of a category card. So for example, you have the fast food category, but that's a subset of the restaurant category.
Yeah.
That would be one example. So that's what I would say would be what I would look for in a US Bank card is like a complimentary situation.
I will say though, I don't necessarily like the way that U.S. Bank is going, though. I know you're a big fan of the Smartly card, but I personally preferred the Altitude Reserve way more than that one, because...
Well, it depends, right? And so I think the way that they're going is they're really trying to become more of a relationship bank, really mimicking what Bank of America has done with their Platinum Honors or the Preferred Rewards system. And so the thing with the U.S. Bank and the Smartly card is that while it is one of those cards that's more, unique in the sense that if you have 100K in assets, you get that 4% cash back, it really has changed the game for cash back because now you can potentially have a floor 4% cash back on everything that's uncapped. And that's ridiculous. There's no tricks. There's no annual fee on that card either. If you can don't count obviously the assets you have in the bank or that brokerage, what have you. And so I think it's something that is very, very unique to the credit card space. And I think it's going to help propel a little bit more innovation.
Yeah.
And really seeing how cards can really get much better than just the 2% cashback that it's been having for such a long time.
Yeah. One thing I want to throw in here before we move on to the next bank is I personally, even though I do recommend the cards, and I think the cards are great, my little brother has the Altitude Go and then now the Kroger card too. And he's never had a problem with them. But I've had a bad experience with them personally. I wanted to get the Reserve initially, and I know that they're almost like a credit union in the way that they're relationship based like that. So I opened up a checking account with them, and then I also set up direct deposits. And for some reason, they thought that my check was fraud. I just couldn't log in to my bank account.
Really?
And then I got a notice, or I had to call them up, and then they told me that they closed my account for fraud. And I called them like 3 different times. They kept transferring me to different people, and then they just told me I was pretty much cooked. There's nothing they could do.
What happened to your money? Did you get it back?
Yeah, they sent it to me in a physical check.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has their beef with different banks. Like, that happens to many people. Like, people like hate Bank of America, for example. Mm-hmm. I have had a Bank of America account for over 20 years and never had a problem. So it really depends on like the situation or what happened. I'm sorry it happened to you. I definitely have had, or I have currently, a U.S. bank account. It's fine. I've never had any problems with it either. But I can see how that could really change your mind of how you look at a certain bank based on how they treat you as a customer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily hold it against them. Like when I've made a video about like the top 5 bank accounts, and at the end I gave a disclosure. Like, you're probably going to see people in the comments like saying, "Oh, I hate this bank. I hate SoFi." Even though 99% of people have a good experience with them, there's always going to be that one bad story just because they have so many customers.
Yeah.
But I don't hold it against them.
You always mention the Kroger MasterCard. What makes that card so cool for you?
Well, personally, because one, I'm a low spender. So, I mean, I would obviously go over if I was just using, it has that $3,000 cap. Yeah. And for those of you who don't know, it's a card that gives you 5% back every time you use it in mobile wallet pay. And pretty much everyone accepts mobile wallet pay now. I think it's like over 90% of retailers. Yeah. But even having a card like that, if you're running a travel setup, can really fit all the little holes and gaps. Let's say you go to a Petco, right? And you're running the Venture X Duo. That's just a nice card to have. I mean, it's a toss-up whether you'd rather have 3% or 3x from a travel card or 5% cash back. But I think if it's something like 2x on the Venture X or 1.5 on the Chase Trifecta, you would take that 5% cash back every time.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that we always talk about is that difference between cash back and travel, right? So, like, as you know, and I'm sure a lot of your viewers also know, is that when you have that 2x from the Venture X versus a 5% cash back, that means you have to, with those miles, get 2 cents per point or more redemption to even match what that 5% is, just based off of the calculations.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it really puts the ball in your court to trying to figure out how to do that. And now, if you redeem for first-class international travel, that may be very easy to do. But maybe it's not because you don't travel internationally that often. And so maybe it's just easier to get the 5% cash back and call it a day, because all you got to do is just press a button, you got it.
Yeah. And something that we both say on our channels is we think that hybrid setups are the best setups. So while I do, and as a young person, it's expensive for me to travel. So that's why I love credit cards so much, is because it allows me to take even domestic flights that I wouldn't necessarily take, like just going out to see my brother or something, that's expensive. And I love my travel cards for domestic, and I want to do some international travel later this year. But yeah, I think a hybrid setup's great.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think you can take advantage of both worlds. I really like having cashback cards for spending and using travel-focused cards for benefits. I think that's the perfect sweet spot. In my opinion, there's going to be exceptions, but that's what has worked well for me.
Okay, so let's move on to Bank of America. So me included, and I think pretty much every single one in credit card YouTube besides you has kind of written Bank of America off a little bit and looks at their card as mediocre cashback cards unless you meet one of their tiers and can get a boost, which you would have to have. It's over $100,000 for the 75% boost, right?
Correct. That's right.
So most people kind of just write them off, but I know you have actually got that 75% boost, and it's the biggest part of your setup, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be the Premium Rewards Elite card. That was a big one, but now that's been replaced by that US Bank Spotlight card because it's just so much better as the catch-all. But, really the customized cash rewards card is probably the only, Bank of America branded card that I would take seriously. Because even at a no relationship level, the 3%, they have some pretty nice categories. They have restaurants, they have travel, they have home, I think it's home furnishings and online shopping, all these great categories that you can use as main categories for 3% cash back. But even after that, if you get that Platinum boost, that's 5.25% cash back, up to $2,500 per quarter. And that's pretty solid. And what's nice about Bank of America, too, is that you can get multiple of these cards, no problem.
Really?
You also can get cards that are very similar to it. For example, the Susan G. Komen card. That is another clone of that card by Bank of America that functions exactly the same as that card, but just a different name.
Really?
So if you have multiple versions of that card, you can get multiple versions of restaurants about 0.25% or travel 5.25%. And those categories are really cool too because they're very broad, right? Restaurants covers like bars, nightclubs, they even have discotheques in there. That's even a thing anymore. Travel category Bank of America covers transit, which is really cool. So parking, subways, and buses, like those count in the travel category, which is not the same for like things like American Express, which they separate travel and transit. I think Wells Fargo also transit too. So I think that's what really makes that card really cool, and that's why I really like that system. But the other cards in that system, if you don't have a boost like Platinum or Platinum Ires, they really aren't that competitive compared to like American Express or Chase, for example.
I think a lot of people, one, just don't have $100,000 like you to throw in a brokerage account, not even think about it. But also, it's not really worth them to move over $100,000 in assets to maybe get another 2% back on their credit card.
Yeah, it depends on kind of where you're at. It's obviously something that if you have available, it is helpful. Certainly, if that's not the case, I wouldn't recommend Bank of America for that reason. It's one of those like specialty things that if it's around, it's helpful. I mean, one way people do it is they have an IRA that they don't mind transferring to Bank of America, so it's already like invested. It's just a matter of like where is it located. And so if that's okay, that's one way to do it. Another thing is if you've already maxed out all your retirement accounts or 401ks or Roth IRAs and you're looking for a brokerage and you don't plan on doing active investing, you're just be a passive investor, then I think this is a great option to do that because you can not only do that with a very reasonable brokerage with a very minimal fees, at least on the Bank of America side.
Yeah.
U.S. banks are a little different. Their brokerage kind of is not that great yet, but we'll see if they develop that. But if you have that extra assets to invest, I think it's actually something that's nice that you can kind of both grow your assets and get that boost with Bank of America on the credit cards too.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. I mean, I don't know that I would want to get their cards until I have $100,000 to move over to them, if that makes sense. So I don't know that I necessarily want to grow with them rather than just move it over and then get the cards.
Yeah, and I don't think you're wrong.
Yeah.
I think that that's totally fine. So I would definitely say that, if you have a better place to put your funds right now, then that may not be the wisest place to put your assets, but I would just go ahead and just figure out what you'd rather do.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that it's really meant for a certain type of person that has that extra funds to put in that account specifically for that reason.
Yeah. I mean, it's a no-brainer if you already bank with Bank of America or Merrill Lynch. But
Yeah, I wouldn't put it in a savings account for sure. Right? That would be a bad idea. But if it's a brokerage account that's self-directed with little fees, then I think that's totally fine.
Yeah. So let's talk about a bank that is for pretty much everyone. It's the people's bank, and that's Chase. Are you still running any Chase cards?
I do have Chase cards. I don't run them necessarily as spending cards, but like I said, I'm a very big fan of their hotel cards and their travel cards for that reason. So they have, obviously you have the Bonvoy Boundless for the Marriott. I have the IHG Premier Business Card. Those hotel cards are great. I also have the Chase Ritz-Carlton, one of my favorite cards, but I don't use them for spending. I've been using them for their free night awards, or for IHG case, I use them for that, but I also use it for that fourth night free benefit after you redeem for 3 nights. And so that is how I use those cards, as well as the welcome offers, obviously. They have some of the best welcome offers out there. If you wait to the right moment to get that Chase card with that right welcome offer, it's really fantastic to get that, to have all those points come in, and you can use them for your aspirational travel.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you're recently married. Have you considered any of the Southwest cards for the companion pass now that you're running a 2-player setup?
Yeah, I actually already got one.
Oh, really?
I got one for this year. We did the whole, we did the priority and the performance business cards in January.
Okay. Got
the welcome hours on both, and now we're set to go to the end of 2026.
Yeah. No, I remember you talking about that.
No, it's definitely a great thing to do if you definitely want to, if you travel a lot domestically and use Southwest, it's definitely a really, really great benefit to have.
Yeah, I think that's great for 2-player setups too, because it lasts 2 years if you get it at the beginning of January.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of you can get the sign bonuses on those cards every 2 years. So you can get it and then have it for 2 years and then close it down, and then your wife could get it. And then by the time that expires on hers, you can just get it again,
Yeah, exactly. So. You can just go back and forth.
Yeah. And then all those points you accumulate, you can use for the companion pass, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So you get all those points, and then you have those points to basically use for free flights anyways. And then you can also, when you redeem those points, those flights you redeem can also add your companion to those flights too. So it's great combination.
Yeah, I mean that 524 rule sucks. That's something that I wish I was a little bit more conscious of when I first started my credit card journey, because the cards I got were horrible. I got the Amazon Prime Visa and then the Gold and Discover card, but I'm at 4/20/24 now, so I can add one more, and then November, which isn't too far away, resets. But yeah, that 524 rule sucks.
Yeah, I think when you're starting out, it really is hard. That's why I think a lot of people say to start with Chase cards first to get the ones you want and get them out of the way, and then you can go on to other issuers later. I think there's a lot of value in that. There's a lot of wisdom in that, because I didn't do that, and I kind of wish that I did do that.
Yeah.
But I didn't really think about it at the time. But no, looking back, I think it would have been nicer to have that ability to do that, because once you're over Chase 524 and you're over by a large amount, it's hard to go back.
Yeah, absolutely. With transferring out points, they are very beginner friendly, but also just using the travel portal with the Sapphire cards with that 20% or 50% boost. That's not necessarily a bad move all the time,
Yeah, I mean, the Chase Sapphire Reserve, that's the one thing I think it's got going for it, like, as a really great benefit. Because I always get the question, like, should I get the Chase Sapphire Reserve or the Ritz-Carlton plus a Chase Sapphire preferred combination? And, it's going to depend on the person. I think the better value is going to be the Ritz-Carlton card plus Chase Sapphire preferred. But if you really want to have that 50% redemption boost with Chase Sapphire Reserve, I think that's still worth it, even with that extra $75 annual fee situation going on. The reason is because if you want to redeem your points for that flat 1.5 cent per point redemption rate, it's very helpful if you have a family. And like if you travel domestically, or you don't really want to do a lot of transferring out to transfer partners, that's just a very, very easy way to get good value on those UR points. And it's pretty solid. 1.5 is not nothing to sneeze at. It's not like the best, but it's not the worst either. Yeah. So,
or you really want that Sapphire lounge access.
You do, but you also get there with the Ritz-Carlton card too. That's right. And so now that the Sapphire Terrace Lounge is closed at the Austin Airport, the Ritz-Carlton card and the Sapphire Reserve card have equal lounge access for Sapphire lounges. Okay. Which is very cool.
What's the annual fee on the Ritz-Carlton?
$450.
Okay, it's a little bit less.
But you get, just like the Sapphire Reserve, you get set to that $300 travel credit. The Ritz-Carlton gets you that $300 travel incidental credit, but it sells kind of like in quotations, because if you use it the right way, you can also be used as travel credit too.
Yeah. I'm kind of a casual, honestly, when it comes to the hotel cards, like the Bonvoy cards. I don't think I've mentioned them in any of my videos, but I know you can get a ton of value from the statuses. And
well, it also depends too, because from my understanding, you're a college student, right? And so you're still, in college. You may not travel as much now, but as you, graduate, move on into the world and get a career and start your jobs, you may travel more than you think that you may. Yeah. And at that point, maybe it'd be worthwhile to consider getting a hotel card, because then you'll start to see the benefits start flying in with the elite statuses, with the free awards, and there are plenty of starter options. I mean, the two ones we mentioned at the beginning of this section, which was Chase, is the Bonvoy Boundless and the IHG Premier card. Also, you can't forget the World of Hyatt card too, but I'm not a big Hyatt person, so I can't talk much about that. But yeah, I mean, if you think you're going to stay at a certain amount of hotels or some, a certain number of them, then just try one and see what you like. And they're only at $95 in annual fees. It's not terrible.
Yeah, I'm just pretty much waiting for the Sapphire Preferred to get an elevated offer, and then I'm going to hop on that. I might get one of the ink cards first. I've just been getting into business cards.
Well, I think congratulations on your first business card. I saw a video recently.
Yeah, we'll talk about it more when we get to Amex, but that kind of changed the way that I look at Amex and getting their cards. I like Airbnbs. Maybe people in credit cards don't like them as much, but for someone that is a low spender like me, doesn't travel that much,
I think it's an individual's preference. Right?
Yeah.
I think it's not necessarily for credit cards or not. It's just that a lot of credit cards don't cater towards specifically Airbnb.
Yeah.
Right. That's the only thing. I would say that if you were going for Airbnbs, though, Bank of America and Chase are two great banks for that, for the reason I mentioned before, because their travel categories are so broad and they both cover Airbnbs.
Do they include that?
Yeah. So, for example, you have a Chase Sapphire Reserve or Link Preferred, you get 3x points back on that travel category, which I think covers Airbnbs.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's positive. A good thing to think about.
Okay, let's move on to Citi. And Citi is I don't have any of their cards yet, but I love their cards. For the spending multipliers, I think their transfer partners are underrated. I actually rank the Strata Premier as my number one best card of 2024. And if any of my friends come to me and maybe they have 1-2 cards and they don't necessarily know where to go next in their credit card journey, a lot of times I'll recommend either the Sapphire Preferred or the Strata Premier, because it has a $95 annual fee, and then after you hit that sign-up bonus, you can, if you want to, one, play around with the travel redemptions, transfer partners, see if that's something you're into. But if you're not into that, you can just redeem it 1 cent per point and get, essentially, with the Premier right now, a $750 sign-up bonus.
Yep.
And then the downgrade paths are amazing too with the Strata Premier, because you can get the double cash or the custom cash.
Yeah. I would say this about Citi. Citi has, I would say, the best spending cards. Yeah. Especially if you are not cashback, you want to have that travel redemption option. They're really good. The reason for that is that the problem with cards like Chase and American Express, mostly Chase, that they miss those 2 categories, groceries and gas, which they do cover on the Chase Freedom Flex once a quarter, but that's not going to really give you a great core setup to use reliably. Citi's different in that the Premier, Strata Premier, like you said, has a really great card because they cover those categories at the race level. They have groceries, restaurants, and gas in a single card. Not only that, but you also have that Citi Custom Cash to cover that extra category at the 5% level. And so when you run that Citi trifecta with the Custom Cash, Strata Premier, and the Double Cash, it's just a really uniquely harmonious trifecta where you can not only earn cash back if that's what you're looking for, but you can also use those thanking points to get into, those treasure partners like you mentioned.
Yeah, and then if you ever decide you want to go team cashback, you can also then downgrade your Strata Premier and have 2 custom caches and a double cash, which is a great cashback setup.
Oh, yeah.
3 card.
Absolutely. And so you can have as many custom caches as you can get your hands on. I think that's the plan for a lot of people.
Yeah, and then maybe in 5 years you decide you want to go back to it, or I guess you could upgrade in the time being, or wait 5 years and then get the sign-up bonus again.
Yes, absolutely. You can do that too. There's a lot of options.
Who knows what the card will look like in 5 years, but
we're looking for that Strata Elite card, hopefully.
Yeah, that was one of my predictions for 2025. I think they'll do good with that card.
I'll have to see. I'm kind of waiting to see what happens, but I'm cautiously optimistic is the way I would say about that.
Yeah, it's been a minute since we've gotten a premium travel credit card to kind of push the Reserve and Platinum.
Yeah. Well, with more and more premium cards, it's just going to foster more competition, and I like that because the competition will foster more innovation too. Yeah. And I think we just need a lot of that because the big guys, they're at the top, but they're not really innovating as much. We may cover this later on, but Built is very innovating. Mm-hmm. It's a very innovative company. I know they're revamping their cards now. I'm not the biggest fan of their proposed revamps, but at least they're trying, and I think is good.
Actually, that was the next bank I want to talk to, so let's go straight into Wells Fargo. We'll start with the Bill card. I don't really I know it is a Wells Fargo card, but I think most people kind of view it as a separate thing from Wells Fargo, just because the interface and...
No, it's a purely separate card because it's like their transfer partners are different to start, right? And then their points are different also. So that's why it's different. It's because it is different. Mm-hmm. It's just they happen to be a part of Wells Fargo. Yeah, that's all good. That's the only thing they can really say that they're connected to. But no, they're distinctly different cards.
I think everyone loves the Bill MasterCard if you're a renter. Who knows what's going to happen with the mortgage stuff, but as far as the rent goes, I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, absolutely. I currently rent now. I use it for rent. I think it's a great card for that purpose. It's a matter of trying to figure out what else I can use the card for because they've nerfed it a lot. They've had a lot of great benefits. They still do. They also still have a lot of great rent day promotions. Like they had that recent one with Hilton for the 1 to 3 points back in March 1st, I believe. And so that was really nice if you wanted to take advantage of that. I didn't, but that was there for you. They also had bonuses for Aeroplan and other airlines too. That's been pretty nice. The only thing I really wish they had was that rent day 2x bonus for up to $10,000 and 2,000 extra bonus points.
Oh yeah, what did they nerf it to?
To 1,000 a month. So it's a really big decrease.
Yeah, I know a lot of people wanted front loading purchases, pay up front for your insurance or gym membership or whatever, But I think for the casual credit card user, that doesn't actually change anything. I think 90% of people would just use it to go and get dinner for. Or whatever. Just
do a real rent day dinner thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. But I think it's we'll have to see what happens with their revamp because they are going to change the card. We already know that, but the question is, are they going to have no annual fee, get the card at an annual fee, have a different card with annual fee. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
Figure it out.
How do you feel about their Wells Fargo cards? The autograph?
Yep,
Yeah.
the autograph journey. I think they're definitely good cards for the right people. I think that the autograph has really caused a lot of people to move away from cards like the Strata Premier, like the Amex Green card, because it's a no annual fee version of that card. The only difference is that the transfers are not quite there yet with American Express and Citi. So Wells Fargo's partners, I mean, they're good. They have a good collection in terms of from the alliance standpoint. They cover all the alliances, but there's just not as many of them as Citi or American Express, and the ones that we typically like to look at too. There are not as many of those on Wells Fargo either. So that's the one downside of that particular card, is that even though you can earn a transferable currency, it's not necessarily one that has as many transfer partners available as the other cards.
So can you combine your points, pool your points together, like take your active cash points and use it to transfer out if you have the autograph cards?
Yeah, I don't have either of those cards, but from what I understand, I think you can do that.
I've heard that too. So I mean, that's a pretty good setup too, and they have that no annual fee autograph card. So I mean, for a no annual fee travel setup, that's a pretty good way to go.
It is a very good way to go. Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's very cool that they have that card now, and they have the autograph journey as that $95 option with the 5x on hotels and 4x on airlines. And so that's nice if you don't want to be locked down into a travel portal, or you may want to not be a loyalist to a certain airline or a certain hotel group. That would be a great card to consider as well.
Yeah, they have great sign-up bonuses too.
Oh yeah, and you can't always worry about that as well.
Yeah, if we stopped talking about Wells Fargo right now, I'm sure I'd get like 20 comments. You know, people treat Wells Fargo like the Grinch. They want to trust you with a 20-foot pole after the whole scandal. They did a bunch of things. I did one of my first videos was on that, but
yeah. Well, every bank has skeletons in their closet,
but not like Wells Fargo.
Wells Fargo is the most public. You know, like everyone has skeletons in their closet. You know, including Wells Fargo, but they're the ones that are, for whatever reason, the most well known for it.
Yeah, they have the worst reputation by far. I don't necessarily see as much hate for Bank of America. I think maybe they're number 2, but I don't really see people like.
I mean, not as much as Wells Fargo, but I've definitely seen my fair share of Bank of America. Yeah, some people just don't like them for whatever reason. Like I said before, it depends on your experience with the bank too. Some people just had poor experiences, and that just will color the way that they look at a certain bank.
Yeah.
But like I said before, Wells Fargo, for whatever reason, has the most public poor image. But I think they've done a lot to make it better over the past several years.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, especially with these new cards they're releasing. And then, you know, who knows? Maybe we'll have an autograph elite card too. You never know.
Yeah. That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
I don't see that coming for maybe another year or two if it ever does, but probably never. But
I mean, it'll happen eventually. Yeah. I don't think it's not a no. I think it's just not happening anytime soon, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We'll have to see what happens with Citi first, and then also that Alaska card.
Yeah, I saw that. Is that public yet?
Not yet. It'll be in summer of this year.
Okay.
So we'll have to see what Bank of America does with that card.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting card to look at.
Yeah.
What would this list be without Amex? Let's move on to Amex.
All right. I like that. Amex is a great company.
You think so?
I think so, yeah.
So, okay. I just did a video with Anthony Venture, and we were kind of both hating on Amex, but actually since that video, I've sort of changed my perspective on them a lot. And I just did a video on the Amex Platinum. And so first of all, the reason why my opinion has changed is because of my first business card, I'll just call it the BBP. It's kind of a tongue twister. BBP.
Blue Business Plus.
Exactly. I can't say it for some reason. But previously I thought that you had to have the green card that anchored your points. Meaning if you get their charge cards, the green, the gold, or the platinum, and then close it down, you would lose your points unless you had the green card to keep those points alive. But I've learned that the BBP will do that for you. And it's a no annual fee card. It earns 2 membership rewards points on every dollar spent up to 50,000. And you can get it without, you can have a dog walking business and get approved for it,
I would just say that, for American Express, it's good that you recognize that you have a card to anchor those MR points. That's the most important, I think, topic to consider, because a lot of Amex's cards are high annual fee. They got tons of statement credits. I like them as a company, but I don't like the way how their cards are raising their annual fees and putting a bunch of statement credits on to try to recoup that cost. Because
the
it's
coupon book.
Yeah, it's coupon book, right? It's just not fun for anybody. Having said that, I kind of understand where they're going with that because, for example, if you have like a business gold card and you're running $150,000 of ads through it every year, what do you care about the statement credits? You don't.
Yeah.
Right? You just care that you're getting Forex points back on that $150,000 a year in ad spend. Right? And so that's kind of their target market. Like we're trying to like, play checkers down here with these statement credits, but like for people that are actually running like these businesses with large amounts of spend, that's what those cards are really for. Having said that, there's nothing, we can also go to the two and get good welcome offers, take advantage of a little bit of that, those benefits too. So, again, it depends on kind of what you're using the card for, but the starting point is a Blue Business Plus, and I have that card. I love that card too. It actually runs my YouTube business.
Yeah.
All of my YouTube spend, for most of it, I have another Bank of America Customized Cash Rewards business card that I use for specific purchases. But for the most part, all of my YouTube expenses are on that Blue Business Plus.
Yeah. Back to their targeted customer. I've worked at some high-end restaurants for pretty much all throughout my teen years and now getting me through college. And I see these people come in I work at like a fine dining place, and they're paying with their platinum card. And I'm looking at them and I'm like, man, there's no way these people that are dropping $1,000 on dinner are worried about the $50 Saks Avenue credit.
Right, exactly.
I'm sure if I talked to most of them, they wouldn't even, a lot of them probably just pay the effective $700 annual fee,
Yeah, well, you gotta get that Synchrony card somehow, right?
Yeah.
No, but so sometimes it's like weird to us that they're just using the platinum card for that reason. But maybe they're working on their welcome offer.
Yeah,
you never know, right?
I would assume it's mostly status, but
probably.
Yeah.
But there's always that in my mind. I'm like, they're using a platinum, but I don't want to jump to the conclusion that they just don't know. Maybe they're doing it for a certain
or maybe
reason.
they like the Centurion Lounge so much that
they want to bring in guests for that $75,000 limit, right? Or they want to go for the Centurion card, so they're working on that. You never know.
Yeah. And the other thing that changed my mind a little bit on these on the Amex cards is I just did my first big point redemption. Up to this point I've mostly been Team Cash Back just because that's what I've used. But I got the gold card and I redeemed 70,000 points, and I was able to fly me and 4 of my family members back from Philadelphia to California.
Oh, that's wonderful.
For my first couple were 1.5 cents or 1.6, which isn't bad. I did it through Qantas and then through American Airlines, but the last one I was able to do through Qatar, which had a 20% boost at the time. But the point is I was able to get 2 cents per point for domestic travel, which up to that point, most people would tell me you can't do. It's only for the aspirational travel. But just seeing how much money I was able to save and have my family save with half of my sign-up bonus, or I only spent 50,000 points, but with just half of my sign-up bonus, it would take me so long to earn that on cashback cards. The way that I view Amex cards, and I think most people should, is they're good cards for the welcome offer, and maybe 1 to 2 years, maybe they'll give you a retention offer as well. But I think people hold on to those annual fees too much,
Yeah, it's a great card for those welcome offers. They always have elevated offers. Again, it depends on what you're looking for on a certain card. For example, you can't forget, I always go back to hotel cards. I hold on to Aspire cards, one of the best cards in the game for hotels. And it has a $550 annual fee, but does that really matter if you're getting really good value from that card? Of course, you want to use the statement credits, you want to use the free down certificate, all that jazz. But the reason why it's so popular is because of the value you get from that particular hotel card. Also, you talked about your redemption too, and how those points really added up to a great value for you and your family. And Amex is well known for their very, really broad transfer partners, both airlines and hotels, but mostly airlines.
Yeah.
And it's nice that you were able to get that type of redemption from probably a transfer bonus, right? That's what it sounds like.
Well, even the one without transfer bonus was still, I think, 1.6 for just economy.
Yeah, and that's great. So Amex is really one of those where you have to know how to redeem your points correctly, because as we all know, cashback is bad for Amex. You don't want to do that.
Yeah, of course.
But if you want to put in the work and figure out how best to redeem those MR points, that it can really take you to places that you really could never go to just with cashback usage.
Yeah, and one thing that I want to throw in here just for the viewers is you hear all these people talk about learn how to transfer out your points, and that kind of confused me, but just the short answer is use Seats.era. That's a game changer. I don't know if you use it, but
I have not. I need to learn how to use it.
It's super easy. You just enter it in, it tells you who to transfer out to. But
sounds really awesome. I want to try that.
It's super sick. I don't have any affiliate links for it or anything, but yeah, I think it's a great free tool.
Yeah. I need to learn more for sure. I'm more kind of on the earning side of things, and I really like to focus on credit card strategy. It's kind of like my forte.
Yeah.
But I need to learn more about the transferring portion of it. And I just keep learning, keep listening to people like you do good redemptions, and trying to figure out like what to do in those situations. But I'm always, luckily the credit card community is so welcoming and open that we can all ask each other questions very freely, and it's like we all want each other to win.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's, you can go to like the Luke's Points and Miles kind of.
Oh, love that guy.
To them.
Yeah.
They're really experts. I'm brand new to this, but yeah, the credit card community is great.
Yeah, you'll feel free. There's a lot of people that we're all linked together somehow. Yeah. So eventually, if you're watching, my video or watching your video, you're gonna find another creator that's doing the same thing, and that's how we kind of all connected together.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, so let's talk about Capital One. What are your thoughts on Capital One?
Well, I would love Capital One if they would kind of relax their approval requirements. Like I never know. The problem with me at this point is that I have so many cards that I don't think I'm going to get approved. Now, in my mind, I already hear Uncle Luke saying, stand, risk it for the biscuit, right? But it's just like when you do that, you could get it, or you could get hard pulled 3 times and not get anything at all. And for a card like the Venture X is the only one I think it would even bother getting. I have cards that can do that already. The only reason why I would do that is if I didn't have any more welcome offers to get. Then I could just get that welcome offer and then have Capital One, I guess Capital One lounge access. But at this point in life, I don't really travel to places with a lot of Capital One lounges anyway. Mm-hmm. So I have Sapphire Lounge access already on Amex Carlton. I have the Amex Platinum for Synchrony lounges, and so it already covers a lot. Plus the priority passes with those cards too. So I have a pretty good coverage. So for me in Capital One, I would just say that that's my barrier. Having said that, they have very good cards for a lot of people, right? The Venture X and the Capital One Saver as that duo, very powerful, absolutely. And also, if you want to not go Venture X, you buy just a little bit cheaper with the annual fee. The Venture is also a good option too.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think a lot of people overlook Capital One. For one, a lot of people like to trash on their transfer partners, but because of those alliance, American Airlines, you can get. Not always, but you can get 1.5 cents for your domestic travel, And then I think the Capital One Duo is just so simple. Your effective annual fee is very low. You don't have to have a million different statement credits and a whole spreadsheet you're tracking like the Platinum. Yeah, I think for a lot of people that aren't too far into the credit card game, but want a decent setup going, I think the Capital One Duo is a great option. Only 2 cards. You're effective. I mean, you don't have an effective annual fee if you use the 2 credits and factor in the anniversary bonus, but I mean, for a lot of college students that ask me, I think just getting the Saver student card, and then when you're ready to travel, getting the Venture X is a great plan.
Yeah, what I like also about Capital One is that all their cards have no foreign transaction fees. That's huge, right? Yeah. So if you travel abroad, you don't have to think about it. Does it have fees? Does it not? You just take it and you're good. And because the Capital One Saver card covers that direct on restaurants and groceries, that's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
So if you want to stay outside in a foreign country and live like a local one, go ahead. As long as it covers the groceries, you're gonna get that charge not covered. It's not gonna be charged for transaction fee too.
Absolutely. Going off of Capital One, we got Discover. I don't know if you've heard about the merger rumors, or I don't think it's rumors at this point. I think it's pretty official. But how do you feel about Discover's bank?
I mean, they only got one card that I'm familiar with.
Yeah, that's the only. I think they technically they have a couple, but only one group.
Yeah, I don't know much about Discover, to be honest. I just know they have a 5% rotating category card, and the issue with rotating categories for me is that I'm a big fan of having a core credit card setup when you're building out your strategy. The problem with having a rotating category card is that you cannot depend on that card for a actual category because it keeps changing. So, in my view, I like to choose the categories on my cards. I don't want my card to choose a category for me.
I think it's a great starter card. It was pretty much my first credit card, and it gives you that cashback match. So for the first year, you're getting 2% back on everything, as well as 10% back on those rotating categories. So I was able to earn, I think it was like $600 in the first year.
That's really good.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, with that, like you said, that first year cashback match, very powerful. So I think for someone who's starting out and just wants to use one card for everything, that would be great for that first year.
Yeah, but then I think after that first year, for a lot of people, it's just to build up that credit.
Yeah, it really depends on what you're looking for. What I can see it is helpful is if you're, for example, not going to go like with a Chase student card. I know that when you try to apply for a Chase secured or Chase unsecured card for the first time, typically if you're not within the Chase ecosystem, they like to see you have a credit card with at least 1 year history. Mm-hmm. So one way to do that is you get a Discover card, which is a lot easier to get, I think, as a college student. Use that for a year with cashback match, and then start your foray into Chase. That would be a good segue to get into if you don't want to start with a Chase student card.
Yeah. It's definitely the most amount of cash back you'll get with a starter card, because if you're referred, you get an extra $100, and then of course that cashback match. So, but then after that,
it's another 5% card.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it can be useful, but like this upcoming quarter, I'm not even going to use it because
there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a matter of you have to think about, do I put this in my setup or not? It's like an extra thing to think about every quarter to figure out what you need it for. Instead of being like, oh, I know what my setup is, it's this, that, and everything, because I know those categories are stable. But I think in your situation, when you're describing the college student with that first year cashback match, it is a very good card. I'm not going to say it's not. But for me, I don't think it's something that I would ever consider just because it's not, to me, worth a 524 slot. And to me, I'd rather get a better welcome one for somewhere else.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. Do you think the Capital One merger will change it at all, or do you think it'll still kind of be its own thing?
Well, it's a good question. I would imagine it'd be its own thing. I don't think they're going to really rebrand or anything. They're just going to keep it the same. It's two separate companies, but just under that Capital One umbrella. Yeah,
a lot of people are worried they're going to restrict the credit limits and do Capital One things to it, but I don't see it changing. I mean, they've established a pretty strong brand with all their commercials and cashback match and double on everything. I don't think that it would be good business decision for them to actually go and change it up.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
Okay, so the last three banks, well, I guess we'll talk about some others, but
yeah.
And I think maybe some people in the comments will get mad, but I view them all the same, and that's Comenity, Barclays, and then Synchrony. The way that I view them is just I think they have some good co-branded and hotel and airlines. Like I forget which one, but one of them has the Wyndham cards, but a lot of store cards.
Yeah, I would take Barclays and I'd separate that from Comenity and Synchrony. I would put Comenity and Synchrony in the same category as store cards. Okay. But Barclays, they do have some separate cards. I think they also have the Wyndham cards like you're talking about. They have the JetBlue cards, and they have some other co-branded cards that are pretty good too. Like I think they have. Wasn't it the Hawaiian card too? I can't remember if they have that or not.
I don't know. That sounds right, but
yeah. So they have some good cards in their portfolio, whereas Synchrony and Comenity they can. I want to say the AAA Daily Advantage is a Synchrony card. I think that's what I have to look it up afterwards, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. So they do have some good cards. Yeah. We usually think about the cards, like you said, as store branded cards, and so. I mean, I personally have never had any personal experience with Synchrony or Comenity, but I would just only get those cards if it made sense for my situation. Yeah, I wouldn't go out of my way to get it otherwise.
My very first card was actually a Synchrony card, and that was a care credit card. Okay. I think I was like a freshman, and I just finished. I got my braces off, and I needed like retainer, like the Invisalign retainers or whatever, and I didn't have money because I just spent it all on tuition. So I got that card and that let me finance it for 0 APR for, I think it's a couple years, but I mean, I paid it off as soon as I got back from summer and started working full time again. But I'll probably make a separate video on that card because it's kind of a trap with its, what do they call it when the APR kind of piles up and then if you don't pay it off, it all hits you at once.
I don't know what it's called.
Yeah.
All those cards with 0% APR always have that type of thing going.
Yeah, but a lot of people hate Synchrony, I know. For whatever.
But I think it's just the customer service thing too. It's how to get hold of them, and sometimes things people stop. And, it's the typical stuff you think of. But I think it's just because they just have bad customer service is what I've heard. Mm-hmm. I don't know that personally, but I think that's where all the hate comes from.
Yeah. All right. So lastly, I want to talk about credit union cards. And credit union cards actually they have a special place in my heart because that's actually what I started talking about on YouTube to begin with. I talked about a lot of PenFed, Navy Fed, just because I think it's good to talk about things that you have experience with, and that's kind of what I just got into Navy Fed, and I was learning a lot about PenFed. You know, I was a member of both, so I started talking about those cards. As someone into more cashback cards, do you have an opinion on any of the major?
I mean, I don't know if I have a specific opinion on any of the specific credit union cards. I would just say, as a whole, there are a lot of great credit union cards that you can consider that really give you really great benefits and great spending categories that you may not see on the bigger bank cards. And so if you're local or regional, or you can get into a credit union that you see a card that you like, then it's definitely worth it if you think that's the card you're going to use long term. I would say the one that I'm the most familiar with is the Alliant Credit Union Visa card. That's the one you get 2.5% cash back on, covering like a Tier 1 awards with their bank. But that's just one of like many cards. Just like Navy Federal has a lot of cards. I'm not, military, so I don't have access to those cards. But I know a lot of people that talk about them, and they seem like a very good. They have a lot of great options. For those who can't have them.
So I would say one. I mean, they're mostly all cashback cards. I can't think of any that have transfer parties, even though they like to call it points. But I would say one big advantage to credit union cards are to subprime borrowers. Because if you're a subprime borrower, you could get a secured card maybe to rebuild your credit, or you could get a card like the Quicksilver, which is not the best. But if you build a relationship up with these credit unions, even if you have, I've seen high 500s, low 600s, get approved for a pretty decent card and then rebuild your credit, build it up, build your relationship with those institutions like PenFed or Navy Fed. But one specific card that comes to mind that I want to talk about that is really good is the Pathfinder Rewards from PenFed.
Okay.
So you have to be an Honors Advantage member, but they changed it to all you need to do is have a free checking account. So you just open it up with $5 and then you can pull it out, and then no fees or anything, leave the checking account open. But it gives you some really good benefits. You get TSA pre-check and global entry, and this is all no annual fee. You get, I think, like a $400 or $500 sign-up bonus. You get a $100 airline incidental fee, so you can use that for your check bags if you're flying American or Spirit or something, But I think that's a great card. There's some other benefits that I'm not thinking of right now.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. I think that's an underrated card, but yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, there's so many options out there for credit unions. Yeah. It's just a matter of like, can you get one? And then like, if you can't get one, is it worth applying for and taking a slot for your Chase 524? Most people are just, it's fine. Especially like with people that, like you said, need to build in credit. This is a good starting point to be at as well.
Yeah. People also like them, Navy Federal and PenFed specifically, for their high credit limits too. Very generous with those.
That's what I heard too.
Yeah,
that's great.
And there's always that random credit union in like Virginia that has like a crazy 5% back on like Amazon or something. There's all those hidden gems.
Yeah.
So the last kind of cards that I want to talk about are these newer, maybe fintech brokerage cards. The Robinhood card, maybe the Venmo card, some of the crypto cards. Though a lot of them are dead now. But how do you feel about them? Because I kind of have a gripe with a lot of those cards.
I mean, I personally don't try to go out of my way to get a fintech card. My personal experience, and it's not like even a personal experience because I've never held one of these cards, but what I've seen with fintechs in general is that they tend to overpromise, underdeliver.
Yeah.
Eventually, right? Usually you have like this really great situation going on. I want to say it was the crypto.com card.
Those have been revamped like 10 times.
Yeah.
Those are all debit cards.
There was like a really good promotion like 2 years ago where like you were like 10x or something like that on like the highest tier. If you like,
I think that's the M1 maybe.
No, if you like staked like.
Oh yeah, those are the crypto. Yeah.
You stake something like a lot of money or something, and then you get like this really like awesome card with a lot of rewards in crypto, but then like tanked at some point. I don't know. They tend to overpromise and underdeliver, and that's kind of my mantra when I look at these fintechs. I look at them, I'm like, take it with a big grain of salt. That's kind of where I'm at with those rows.
Yeah, so I feel the same way. I call it the crypto or the brokerage card playbook. And what I see with a lot of these cards is they make it super exciting. They have something new and revolutionary, like this new Robinhood card, where they promise something. A lot of times they give you a metal card or something gimmicky like that.
Yeah.
But then they make a wait list, Like with the Robinhood card, it's been over a year now where most people are still on the wait list. The Gemini card did that, although the Gemini card I think is pretty good. The X1 card did that. There's others. There's a bunch of them that aren't coming to mind, but it's a common thing. And then they do give you those rewards, usually for only about a year. They nerf the card to where it's not bad enough where you have to cancel, but if it was like that in the beginning, you never would have applied for it.
Right. I see.
And typically those cards don't come with sign-up bonuses.
Okay.
Which is a huge thing because it takes a lot of time. Even with like the Robinhood card, that's one of my most popular videos, and I get a lot of hate on that video, but it takes a lot of spend to even make up for a $200 sign-up bonus with only getting 1% extra cash back.
It's true. Yeah, absolutely. You have to do the math first and see if it works out for what you have to spend on the card. Especially with that card in particular, you have to spend that annual fee on Robinhood Gold.
Yeah.
Also, that's another big part of it too.
Yeah, I'll probably make a new video on that card because my brother, actually, my older brother, not the other one that we talked about, he actually got the Robinhood card. And he called me. He was like, hey, I saw your video trashing on it. Do you think this is a bad card? Should I get it? And I was like, actually, for your situation, I think that you should get this card because he was just an authorized user on my Discover card. So he didn't have his own card. And also, he already uses Robinhood for everything. He already had Robinhood Gold for like 2 years for the savings account. So he was already fully integrated into it. And it's his first card, even if it gets nerfed, which I think it will. I mean, maybe not, but it'll probably only go down to like 2%,
Yeah, I mean, right now it's a good card because of that 3% on everything. Yeah. And I actually just did a video about including that card in no annual fee cashback setup. But we'll see. You have to see if you can get off the waitlist first, and maybe you'll even be nerfed before you get off the waitlist. So
yeah,
there's all that going on too.
Yeah, from what I've seen is people with more money in Robinhood typically are let off the waitlist sooner. Like I think I don't have that much money with them, and I've been on the waitlist for over a year now. Not that I'm not planning on getting it, but I just clicked join waitlist, and my brother joined it like 2 weeks ago, and within like 2 days he was off the waitlist.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. But that example or that story just goes to show that even though for a card that I might not recommend for 99% of people, credit cards are just so personalized to your situation that there might be a 1 in 100 situation where you're already so integrated with Robinhood Gold and it's your first card that it makes sense to get it. Same thing with one of the Amex Platinum. Maybe for you specifically, you already spend in each one of those. You go to Saks or whatever. So
yeah. Well, that's what I love about credit cards is that it's always so personal, like you said. Everyone is different. We all have our own wants, our needs, our goals. Everything is different, and also our life circumstances are different too. Which is where really the fun for me is looking at different credit card setups, how they interact with each other, how they interplay between issuers, all those things, like all the issuers we just talked about. We talked at them individually, one by one, but when you start to combine them together and they have these synergistic effects with each other, that's what's really fun. And they always change too, right? They're always updated. There's new cards. And so it's an ever-changing landscape of credit cards. And so that was what makes it, at least for me, very fun. And I'm sure a lot of people too. Yeah,
same. I love strategy. I've always loved like strategy board games and stuff growing up. And it's like a game for me. I mean, it shouldn't be because it's like, financial products, but it's fun.
Well, it depends if you have good financial habits.
Yeah, exactly.
That's okay.
Yeah. We've been talking for probably over an hour about all these different banks, and there's so many options. Where does he even start? How does he know? Because that's something that I struggled with as a beginner because I watched all these videos and I was like, oh, this card looks good. The double cash looks good. This guy just made a video on the custom cash. This guy just talked about the Chick Trifecta. Where does someone start?
So it's a good question because you have to define where you're starting. Because like you can start like in the traditional sense where you're a college kid, you don't know where to start in that situation where you would want to go from one point to another, but you have a lot of time to do it. Or you could be someone in their 50s or 60s who have been using their debit card their whole lives, so they want to start. That's going to be a complete different situation than what I described from before. So I think for both situations, though, really the good place to start is to just, look into what credit cards would be good for you, right? You have to start somewhere. There's a lot of information out now on the internet. There's a lot of information that is on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, or what have you. Just look at the available options. And what I like to always say is, measure twice, cut once, right? Don't look at the first card and say, that looks like a great welcome offer. I'm going to go get it, right? So that's what happens when you apply for the Platinum as your first card. it's not a good idea, but you may get a good welcome offer, but then you've done things that you didn't realize. Like you've now asked yourself out of the gold card welcome offer, the green card welcome offer. Now you have a step on the $600 annual fee card with no downgrade pass. It's just the whole situation, right? So it's a matter of just going into it like step by step. I would say that if I were to recommend anyone to start from anywhere, I would go either with Discover, or if you want to do something different, Chase or Capital One. If you look at these basic trifectas, like the Chase trifecta or the Capital One duo, they will do a lot of people really good, and it's not even that expensive, especially if you look at the statement credits that the card also offers. I would obviously start with a no annual fee card first. If you're a student card is great. A secured card is also great if you can't get a regular unsecured card, and just work your way up. As soon as you get your first credit card, I'm fairly certain that if you're serious about it, you'll definitely want to learn more, and then you'll open this whole rabbit hole like we all have.
Yeah, absolutely. U.S. Bank secured cards are great. They're Cash Plus, and I think Altitude are two of the best secured cards. And like I said at the beginning, I think getting one of those $95 annual fee cards, the preferred or the Citi Strider Premier, and just having that for a year, hitting the welcome offer, and then playing around with those points, just seeing how you like it, seeing how you like the different ecosystems. And then you can always downgrade to one of their cashback cards is a good place to start.
Absolutely, yeah. It's when you have a no annual fee card downgrade path, that's the best option. So definitely look into that if you're looking for like a mid-tier $95 card.
Okay, so to close out this whatever you want to call it, episode podcast, I want to talk a little bit about YouTube, because one of the best things, the best thing probably for me when I was just starting my YouTube journey and with credit cards, was watching Spencer Johnson's Creator Conversation. I watched, I think, every one of those. Some of them I watched twice, and just hearing all those different guys and their stories with YouTube. So now I kind of want to do that with you and talk about your view of YouTube, because I think it's a lot different than a lot of other creators out there.
Yeah, I mean, well, YouTube for me has always been just an enigma, right? I used to watch YouTube all the way from, when I was still a lot younger, but I never thought of myself as eventually being on camera and doing YouTube itself. I think it just became a matter of I was watching Daniel Braun, as many of all of us have, and realizing that I love his content and I love credit cards, and I thought to myself, well, maybe there's a way for me to get more involved in the community, get more involved in helping other people out with their credit card issues, their credit card questions, and so why don't I just start it and see what happens? And so I think it's just a matter of picking up a camera and just starting. You and I both know that when you first start, it's not, it's not a pretty sight. You think it's
absolutely.
A good video at that time, which it's not really. But once you start doing, videos over and over again, you just start to naturally get better at it. And I think at this point, I'm really happy I started my YouTube channel about 3 years ago. It's been a wonderful journey. I bet so many people, including yourself, that I never would have otherwise if I didn't start this YouTube channel.
Yeah, and same for me. The most fun part about doing YouTube is I've just been doing it recently, but connecting with creators like you. I have some other really cool guests coming up. Fern was a great guy to talk to. Anthony Venture's super fun. So connecting with the creators is honestly my favorite part of YouTube, which I didn't expect going into it.
And, I think also it has to do with our community too. I think we have one of the most positive communities out there on YouTube, and everyone, for the most part, everyone is very, very positive and uplifting, and we all really want the same goal, right? And that goal is to really achieve your dreams with your credit cards, whether it be cash back, whether it be aspirational travel, or just to get a little bit back for your everyday expenses. I think there's a lot of things, a lot of wins here we can all celebrate together, and that's why we're all in this together, to help each other out to get the best for our individual situation.
To go to what you were saying about our community on credit card YouTube, something that Spencer said, I think it was a year or two ago, that really stuck with me is that a rising tide raises all the boats. And I think that's a mindset that pretty much everyone in the credit card community has,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're always open for questions about not only credit cards, but also about YouTube too. Because as a content creator, it's a different type of, I would say lifestyle, but you just kind of view things differently, because you're always in the public eye, and you have different things and challenges to overcome that you may not have realized before when you first started. It's just one of those things that as you continue to go throughout your YouTube journey, you just develop more and more about not only YouTube, but about yourself as well.
Yeah.
And so that personal growth and personal journey is just really, really rewarding.
And one more thing that I want to ask you is, for a lot of creators that do it full time, or it's one of their bigger streams of income, they have to have other hobbies that is just something that they love to do, and that they're not trying to monetize, they're not trying to make money off of it, just something that's good for their heart and soul. You know, for some people that's reading. I know a lot of people that's going to the gym. I love doing Muay Thai. That just completely clears my mind, you know, and it keeps them from burnout. But for you, your main job is a doctor, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
A pretty demanding job, right there.
It is. But yeah, it's something that, you know, I love doing YouTube because it's more like a hobby for me, just like you mentioned.
Yeah. So is YouTube your hobby for your doctor career?
Yeah. So the way I would say it is that I started YouTube as a hobby. I did structure that hobby as a business, so there's that part of it. But you know, I find being a doctor to be very rewarding. I like seeing my patients. I like helping them out with their issues and having solutions for their problems. Like every career, though, and every job, you know, there's going to be times when you need to have a break from it and to kind of step away. And for me, that's going to be YouTube. So, for example, when I get a little too stressed out being a doctor, I just do some YouTube. Yeah. On the flip side, as I'm sure all of my YouTube content creator friends know about, because they're full time, YouTube can also be very stressful too. And so that also happens for myself as well. And so when that happens, I just kind of take a step back from YouTube and focus on my doctor job. So it really does a really nice, I would say, symbiotic relationship in terms of a hobby and a career. But it's nice to have it, you know, as a hobby and to really talk about one of my favorite topics, which is credit cards, with everyone in this community, and just learn more from them and just try to make our setups just as best as we possibly can.
Yeah, no, I love that. What's something that you wish tell your baby YouTube self, first video posted, what would you tell him?
I would say that get ready and buckle up, because you're gonna go places that you never thought you'd be in the future. Yeah. I never thought I'd be here 3 years later, where I am now. And I think it's funny because, you know, I look back at my older self from when I first started YouTube and realized how much I've grown since then, just doing this, even as a hobby. You know, just how much I've learned and how many great people I've met, and how much good you can do, even if it's like answering someone's question about credit cards. It seems like the smallest thing, but that, you know, they're so thankful that, you know, you gave them the information for them to take their credit card step to the next level, or in the sense that if you're in like the rewards part of it, you help them to get that aspirational trip that they've always wanted to go on with points and miles that they never thought they could. Those sorts of things, I think, drive a lot of us as content creators forward, because it's just such a rewarding experience to know that you help someone out in this world.
Yeah, I would not have thought that I would be sitting here talking to you a year later when I started. But if I could go back and tell myself something, or anyone that is thinking of starting a channel, is to just take out your phone. You can hold it. It doesn't matter how you do it, but just take it out, record a 1-minute-long video of you just, it doesn't matter. You can talk about anything, all in private, my first video after this, so you guys can see, but just be like, hey, my name's Daniel. I want to post credit card stuff. Just post your first video. It can be just a minute long, but the biggest thing for me was just posting that first video, because 99% of my fears with YouTube went away after I posted that first video. You know, you realize it gets 2 views, no one cares, you're not going to get all these hate comments, your friends, your family aren't going to see. And yeah, that was the biggest thing for me, because I put it off 2 months of not posting that video, because I wanted my first video to be perfect, and I was like, oh, all these people on YouTube talk about how your first video is going to suck, but I don't want that. I want my first video to be perfect off the bat. But just it's not going to be, you know, not to say that your first video is not going to get views, but just post that first video, and then yeah.
Well, it's so funny you mention that, because I look back at my older videos, which are still on my channel, by the way, and I remember back then when I looked at them and edited them myself and that sort of thing, I was like, wow, these are really good videos. And then you look at it like 3 years later, like, oh, those were really bad videos. Like, in your mind, you think it's a good video, but it's not actually. And I'm sure, like, at this point, I would look at my videos 3 years from now, I'll be like, I thought that was a good video. And it's not going to be a good video at that point. It's just amazing to kind of see that time capsule of how much you've grown over the course of several years.
Yeah, no, I remember cooking up my first video in like CapCut, and I'm like, oh, this is such a banger, but this is gonna get so many views. It was like a 3-minute video on like credit score or something, and that, yeah. Yeah, no, I love what you said. One last thing, and I think you would also agree with this, and this is why a lot of people love your channel, is don't go into YouTube or credit card YouTube or really any YouTube with your main intent being making money. You know, when I started, I didn't even know that credit card or finance YouTube had a higher RPM or you can monetize with affiliate links or anything. I just like finance. You know, I'm majoring in finance.
Yeah.
I started getting into credit cards a lot. I'd always listen to this one. I don't know if you know who Jack Harlow is, but he has this one song. He talks about like how these other creators might like pop, or these other artists might pop off, but they're not gonna sustain it because they don't love it. You know, so I think whatever you talk about, it doesn't have to be credit cards. You have to actually enjoy it. And when you're starting out, it isn't. You kind of have more freedom because you're not locked into one niche. You know, you can make videos just for fun. You can make a video on investing. You can make a video on a travel vlog. You know, just see what you like to make. Don't think once you make your first 3 videos on a specific niche, you have to stick with that. You know, you have that freedom to experiment when you're first starting out.
You do. I think I want to just reiterate the point you're trying to make, where you want to talk about something that you love doing. That is very important because, like I mentioned earlier, YouTube is kind of a roller coaster. There's going to be good days and bad days. And so what makes that roller coaster less bumpy is if you actually have a topic you like talking about, because then it just kind of falls into place. All the camera stuff, all the video editing, as long as you can talk about the topic and you like it a lot, no matter what happens, you can really stay the course and be very consistent and still like come out ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, do you have anything else to add to that?
No, I think that's been a great conversation with you, Daniel. I really appreciate you reaching out, wanting to interview me. I really didn't realize again that you live so close, and so maybe do this in the future again.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming out, man. That's,
of course.
Yeah, in one of your videos, you mentioned that you're in California. I'm like, oh, I wonder what part, and we were like, what, 5-10 minutes away?
Yeah,
it's crazy how it lines up.
Very, very close by. So definitely, again, thanks for having me over here, and hopefully, you all check out Daniel's channel. He's doing some good work here, and of course, we always have more information on credit cards. So let's just go ahead and see what happens in the future.
Yeah, I'll link all your stuff in the description, top links. But yeah, stay tuned and check out. I mean, I'm sure most of these people are coming from your channel, especially if they're here this long. But yeah, if you're not, subscribe to him.
Appreciate it. Yeah,
subscribe
you
here
as well.
We got some really cool creators coming on in the next couple of weeks. So yeah,
awesome.
I'm excited.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah,
All right, Daniel.
Thank you.
Of course, man. Take it easy.
Yeah.